Okay, so we have been recorded now. So you know, um, yeah. So far, I'm not sure how many of you are reading. Okay, my screen is not seen. Okay, it's coming up, I guess. So is it seen now? My screen visible now. Okay, great. So far, what we have done is, well, what I have done is I've kind of put up the blogs and the presentations for Unit 3. Okay, that's Shefali. Hold on. Need to mark the attendance. I still don't know who Alien 8 is, okay? Um, so at least attendance won't be, it's difficult to know who's Alien 8. Okay. So I'm not sure. Yeah, Omkar, I got your name. That's not a problem. Um, so so I'm not sure how many of you are going through my blogs and presentations. Um, but the thing is, on Unit 3 there was no video also, and I thought for the rest of most of the topics in Unit 1 and Unit 2, um, the videos are there, presentations are there, blogs are there, everything is there. For Unit 3 the videos were missing, so I thought this topic is little uh, you know uh, different. So you can see, there's data intensive computing, there's task computing, concurrent computing. Um, so we are looking at different types of computation. So this is what is appearing in Unit 3. And there are other three things that appears in Unit 3 is the cloud platforms, multi-tenant software, and the Web 2.0 technologies. As far as these first three are concerned, cloud platform, multi-tenant software, Web 2.0, we kind of have spoken about it in the past, and but I will still just you know brush through it, and we will then move into this computing, concurrent computing, task computing, and data intensive. Oh, what is this? Data intensive computing. So this is what is covered in Unit 3. This is what I plan to um, you know run through. Um, so let's with that. Okay. So I'll need somebody to read actually. Uh, so what do I need to? Where do I start with? Yeah, this one. So I need. Where do I go to chat window? Yeah. Can one of you? So that's the link for Web 2.0 technologies. Can anybody volunteer to read this? Open the, like, present it, and I'll stop presenting now for some time. So can somebody open up your screen and present it and read it? Amruta, is it possible for you to open up your screen and share and read it? Okay, great. Thank you, Amruta.
Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. You can, I can hear you. You can go ahead and start.
We start our Unit 3 with one of cloud technologies, Web 2.0. When Internet was born, a lot of applications that were created cloud be termed as Web 1.0. Then Web 2.0 technology enhanced the web technologies. Web 2.0 covered four different technologies, namely first one, SOAP services. Second one, REST services. Third one, AJAX services. Fourth one, Markup services. We covered the entire semester 2 learning about SOAP services and REST services. First one, SOAP services. SOAP services utilized SOAP protocol 1.0, 1.1, 1.2. It initially operated using HTTP, was entire routable between any type of systems, languages, applications. SOAP made application is a so can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. SOAP made application integration easier and was loosely coupled. SOAP utilized XML data structure for any type of communication over HTTP application protocol. So now what's on protocol other than HTTP 2 and is suitable for complex applications. Then next, REST services. REST services later was introduced to be much simpler than work in distributed system with simple URI links and plain HTTP curl methods. REST introduced JSON data structures, which was easier to understand, use and much faster to operate on compared to XML. REST is a good candidate for HTTP-based applications. Next, Ajax. In earlier days, JavaScript was mainly responsible only for form and front-end web pages. Ajax enabled multitasking of web page. Ajax introduced back-end processing multiplexed with front-end processing. Just like an operating system, multitask, giving user a richer experience of using multiple applications. Ajax uses controllers, event listeners, model within JavaScript to make back-end service tasks when the network is idle while page is busy. While one task, you know,
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
While one JavaScript function could collect data from backend, it would operate asynchronously, not to stop the web page from performing any of its front-end page functionality. AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. JavaScript works on single thread on a page, and hence Ajax is not multi-thread but supports multitasking. But the browser can create multiple threads as it is a desktop application which has lot more permissions to create new threads, read and write to file, create more network connections, etc. Next one, Marshall. While Ajax could connect from front-end to back-end without interrupting any of the processes running on a web page, Mashup could bring together different back-end services and do the needful to present or display it on the web page. The mashup reduces programmers' effort to create a front-end screen for the back-end services it uses. The best example of mashup is Word with few lines of code in HTML. We can add the display a Google map with all its complex functionality without having to worry about writing the code to manage the map functionality on the page. The mashup code as such internally would be accessing varied services using the other Web 2.0 technologies like Ajax, REST, or SOAP, thereby hiding all complexity to call the services or present it on the web page. A lot of front-end JavaScript frameworks like jQuery, AngularJS, Node.js, etc. support Web 2.0 technologies.
Yeah, read that line, last line.
Okay. Web 2.0 help developers to create rich internet applications.
Okay. So, so there is two links been provided to the presentations also, and the presentations will have more detail. Uh, but the blog is like, let's say even in the exam, if you have to, even in the exam, if you have to just mute yourself in case if you are not speaking, so that there's less noise. Yeah, and Amruta, you can stop presenting now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and mute yourself also. Okay, so let me present now. Hold on. Okay, so this blog is like if you have to answer a question in your, which comes up in your question paper, this is one way you can write the answer, and it kind of summarizes it. And but if you want more details, there may be a little more details in the presentations also. So once you read the blog, you have to go through the presentation. So what are we talking about in today's? Yeah, sorry, what was this? Something. Aditya, okay. Okay. So people are going to come in and okay. Uh, so let me continue. So what we are talking about today is Web 2.0 technologies. Okay. So let me. So if there is a question on Web 2.0 technology, okay, or there is a question on rich internet applications, uh, in either of this case, you are talking about four things. Okay, this both of this is equal to um, SOAP plus REST plus um, plus AJAX plus mashup. So you need to write up on all these technologies if they're talking about Web 2.0 technology. Now, just remember, Web 2.0 technology is not same as Dev 2.0. This comes up in your Unit 4, and this will come up in your Unit 3. So be aware about the terms that is used, in your questions. Now we say Web 2.0 technologies. Now this technology is why we are talking about it, because it is used on cloud. And the moment we talk about Web 2.0 technology being used, so let me increase the font. Maybe I'm not sure if it's visible. Oh, we can't make it bold, huh? Okay. So Dev 2.0 is different. That will come up in Unit 4, and Web 2.0 is Unit 3. And the moment you say Web 2.0, or the moment you see read RIA, RIA stands for rich. This is little disturbing, but I don't know what to do. Is there automatic entry? I don't know. Next time we'll see. So the moment if somebody is asking about RIA, it stands for Rich Internet Applications. Okay. So we had internet applications earlier when the internet started. So they were able to do simple websites and a lot of e-commerce activities, like you could buy and sell on the internet. You could do all that. There was JavaScript at that particular moment also. But later, when Web 2.0 came, we are talking about when SOAP came, when REST came, when AJAX came, and Mashup came. The internet, you could do lot many things, on your website. You could do most of the things in the front end using JavaScript. Now AJAX and both this, they use mostly JavaScript in the browser. It is not running in the back end, it is running in the front. Okay. Okay, so Ajax and Mashup, these are JavaScript code, which is where it is written. It is written in browser, which is it is written in front end. It is not written in the back end. So when you have something in the front end, you just write the code, test it, and it keeps running, right? You don't really do any compilation yourself. You don't really do any installation. Basically, the browser supports JavaScript, and so any framework that you are using within this browser will if it is written in JavaScript, or if it is written in the language which browser supports, it will run. Now, what are the examples of frameworks in today's date? We have heard about Node.js, Angular, we have heard about jQuery, we have heard about Vue. All these are what? These are JavaScript, based on JavaScript. So it is a framework. It is consisting of JavaScript functions, which is running where? Most of it is running in your browser. Now Node.js is the only candidate which can also run in the backend. That's why Node.js is powerful. Okay, so that's why Node.js is powerful. It can Node.js has the capability to run not only in the front end but also in the back end. So you can write your entire code using only Node.js. But in case of if you are using Angular, Angular can be used only in front end. For your back end, you might have to use some web server, and you might have to use a language such as maybe whatever the backend supports. So your backend maybe Java, maybe Python, maybe PHP, maybe Node.js, right? So this now the thing is JavaScript was always there in the internet. So what changed with Ajax? We have already spoken about SOAP and REST. So let me just put if you want to write about SOAP, then we have to write about that it is on HTTP. It is using mostly XML structure. It is having many it is using SOAP protocol, right? uh, and it is interoperable. It is loosely coupled. So we have already gone through this in your last semester. Interoperable would mean that I can connect two applications which is written in two different languages, which is running on two different machines, which is running anywhere over the internet. I can call each other's function using the SOAP protocol. So earlier we had to do this, it was very difficult. The second thing is it is loosely coupled, because there is you're interoperating between two different systems or two different services which can interact with each other and which can call each other, but they are not tied to each other. They are running separately. When we ran through our demo, right, we created a service oriented application. We had three different services which was implemented in REST, but even though they were interoperable, they were loosely coupled at the same time. They were separate applications. They were loosely coupled. So all these terms have to come in mind when you're talking about SOAP. And when you're talking about REST, it is still working on HTTP, but it is using the same whatever methods has been used earlier days. So earlier days when internet came, they were using HTTP protocol. It is an application level protocol for the internet applications. So it operates using four methods. Using these very four methods, you can call any function on the back end. And that is what we did. We wrote REST services which would implement in either of these methods. Either it would implement update function, update method, or insert method, post method, or get method. And that's how if anybody can connect using HTTP, or they are able to use these methods, and they are able to call REST methods. So just because something in the backend is implemented in REST, the client application does not has to change. The client application has to know just HTTP. Okay, so the client application just has to know how to communicate using HTTP. And what is HTTP? HTTP consists of HTTP header, HTTP body. So it consists of HTTP header, it consists of HTTP body. So the client application do not have to know about the server REST services. It doesn't know, okay, okay, we'll have to just bear with me for all this. Students will come in. Um, so that is what. Uh, Okay, so that is what the beauty of REST services is. It doesn't let your client application change. It is also interoperable, which means if I can use a Java client to call a REST service written in Python. That is what interoperable means, that it can interoperate between two different languages, between two different platforms, between two different machines using over using HTTP, and it is also loosely coupled. So people always have a choice between using SOAP service, implementing using SOAP service, and implementing using REST service. Now where SOAP takes over REST. Now the thing is, in SOAP, it covers a lot of standards. So let's say I want to implement a particular let's say a protocol, like let's say in the health industry we have something known as HIPAA. So they say if you are in the health industry, if you have a health application where you're dealing with patients, hospitals, those data is very secure. So it defines certain, it may have its own security standards and own protocol, for the exchange of data, how it should be exchanged. So you can define that exchange, how the data should be exchanged using SOAP. And we had come across WSDL, Web Services Definition Language. This language basically tells you how the function will be called, what will be its return parameters, and how it will be communicated using XML. So that is what WSDL does. It defines all your functions in the backend that is supported by the web service. It supports. It mentions what input your input parameters and output parameters are. So it defines everything. So WSDL DL can be defined for every industry. In maybe it defines a HIPAA compliance, WSDL, which supports HIPAA compliance. So so using SOAP, the earlier version 1.0 we could not send attachments over the website, over the internet. We could call functions, but we could not send attachment. What if we want to upload the file, directly on the web server without using the front end? So all these new versions that came up later, like 1.1, 1.2, it kept on enhancing the feature of SOAP. So SOAP is a combination of lot of standards. As of now, it is very it has become huge to support variety of needs, and that's where SOAP is used. But if you have a simple application, where your entire application can work using get, post, insert and everything, then you might as well go with REST, because REST is very it uses JSON as the most preferred structure, so JavaScript object notation. So I hope what you understand what how JSON data looks like. It is it has a structure like open bracket, close bracket, and you can structure your entire data using JSON and send it across using REST. So whereas XML was the most primary data structure that was used for SOAP, JSON is mostly used for REST. But nothing is, it is ultimately a data structure. So you can, choose which one to use. SOAP now supports XML and as well as JSON. So but in the earlier days it always started with XML. So that is what SOAP and REST is all about. Now what is AJAX? Okay, so anyone wants to answer what is AJAX, what idea they have about AJAX? Anyone wants to uh, tell me what they? Yeah, that is the full form, asynchronous JavaScript XML. But what is happening in AJAX? What is different about AJAX? Okay, so AJAX, as we see, it stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So this is the term that is used, but it kind of indicates that XML has been used to communicate, and JavaScript is a language used in the browser, and it is asynchronous. So there are three things they're saying: the data structure, the language, and the way it operates. So you need to. So we have a browser. Okay, that is how our normal browser would look like. So let's say we have a browser. So usually in a browser, let's say I have a function a, let's say add, and let's say I am doing a plus b return, or so a is passed over here and b is passed over here, and let's say I have a function called multiply a with 100, and whatever the result is, a, you put it in C, let's say, and say return a plus b plus c. Let's say this is your function. I hope you all can see my screen. Oh, what happened? Everything went. Yeah, it's a little difficult for me to use my I don't have a mouse, and that's why I'm facing this problem. Okay, function. So I'll type again, add a comma b. This is what your JavaScript function is, okay, inside. So you have to be aware about how pages are written, HTML, JavaScript inside your web page. Okay, so in this so let's say we are calling a function, we say c, right, and we say multiply. So this is another function, a comma 200 semicolon, and we'll say return a plus b plus c. Oh yeah. So somewhere here we may have a HTML code where you may have a text box, let's say, okay. So let's say we have a text box which is type is equal to text, and value somehow, you are calling this JavaScript function uh, add, and you're passing 10 and 20 over here. So how does this code work? This code will usually work synchronously. The functions are blocked, which means so you have two lines of code over here, right? This is line 1 and this is line 2. So when the code is synchronous, when the functions are blocking functions, it means that the line 2 will not be executed unless line 1 is executed, and that is what it will operate in a sequential manner, one after the other. Your this result will this will show up a value in the screen only when all the functions have been executed synchronously, one after the other. So every function that you're internally calling, you're saying it is a blocking function, which means it will not allow somebody else, some other function to run, while multiple function is running, or your return value won't be executed until multiple has finished executing. So let's say this function, multiple function, takes 10 seconds to run, and let's say this return takes 1 second to return. So the total time for this function to execute will be 11 seconds. And what is going to happen, this screen, you're going to see on the browser a text box which is going to wait for, let's say this is your text box on your page. It will wait for 11 seconds till you see some value over here, xxx, y, z, okay, some value. So which means that this page is going to be 11 seconds slow for sure. And this is where asynchronous JavaScript XML came into place, where they said we can create. So let me save this. Okay, so this is where your Ajax came into place. Why it came into place? It tried to enhance the performance of your page. It helps you to execute the page faster by having non-blocking functions, which means if it is a non-blocking function, it will not, the next line does not have to wait, or the next line of code does not have to wait. And this is what the is a feature of Ajax. So now if this code is modified and I make this a async function, so let me say this as asynchronous. That was synchronous and this is asynchronous. So let's say this was a non-blocking function. It was a asynchronous function. So every time you're thinking about a function, you have to know which type it is. Is it a synchronous function or whether it is a asynchronous function? If it is a asynchronous function, so let's say I give the name of the function multiple, and again a comma b, and everything is same, right? and I return here ABC. So in this, add function is synchronous, the multiple function is asynchronous, and basically all the code in this function is synchronous except for this function. It is asynchronous. So now how much time will it take for the function to complete? So the answer would be, this function will return after 1 second. So what is going to be the value when it in 1 second when it returns? What is going to be the value? C is going to be 0, right? Because C is not, we have not, it is still, we have not called it is a asynchronous function. It is almost like it was not executed. So A plus B plus C will become suddenly like 10 plus 20 plus 0, which is like 30. So suddenly you're going to see 30 over here the first time, in the first second. So why this is happening? Because this function is we did not wait for this function to get over. We call that function and we immediately, so we call the function and we leave it and we simply move to the line 2. So line 2 was executed without waiting for line 1, and this is what asynchronous is all about. It does not block, it uses non-blocking functions. It does not block your page flow. Whatever is executing on your page, it will move forward. Then the question comes, what is the use of this? It is going to give you a wrong result, right? In case if you're going to not multiply and thus return the result, that is not what happens. So this is what happens. The asynchronous functions never have a return parameter, because return parameter would mean I will wait for you, but it doesn't has a return parameter, and this is one characteristics of a Ajax functions or asynchronous functions. So it does not has a return parameter, but it has a return function. So what does this mean? This means, so I'm going to again modify this. And I am going to call the asynchronous function in the same manner. So I'm going to say line 1 will become async. I'll pass the input parameters b, and I will have my return function. So it does not as a return parameter, but it has a return function. It is called the handler function. Now this return function I have to implement somewhere over here. So I'll say my return function, and in this whenever whoever returns this asynchronous function, whenever it comes back, you will get the parameter c, and you can say return over here. In this function you can say return a, you can say your text, whatever that id is, right? Let's say this id is let's say text is equal to a plus b plus c, or it can be also, you can say text plus c, whatever formula you want to give. So this is going to, so in the first second this will be 30, but after 11 seconds you'll suddenly realize this 30 will disappear, and what you will see is a new value. So so we had our multiply function was multiplying it by a value by 200, right? So it will be like 10 into 200, plus so it will be like you'll get this return value will be uh, 10 plus 20, and the multiply this would be the multiplication of 10 into 100 or whatever this function was doing. We have multiplied it, so let's say the result was 1000. So now after 10 seconds the 30 will disappear automatically, and you will see 130 over here, sorry 1030 over here. So what is happening is, did your page load again? No. The page is refreshing again? No. Only this text box. Okay. So usually when you see, your page will flicker, which means whenever you press a refresh button, your page loads again, entire thing loads again. Whenever you click a refresh button, top to bottom, all the screen will be repainted again. But in asynchronous, the feature is, so that's the next feature, your entire page is not refreshed, but only the affected HTML components. So in this case, which HTML component was affected? It was only this particular text box. This entire page that we have will not be loaded again. Only this text box, you will see a blink, 30 will become 1030. It will just be a blink on the page. It will never be a page, it will disappear and refresh again. So I hope you understand what refresh means, right? Whenever we have a refresh button on the top of the browser, whenever you refresh, the entire page will be executed at that particular moment. But when you are when the asynchronous function is working, in the background, and when it returns back, it updates only the section of the page which is not where it is affected. It will not load the entire page. So when you have this kind of page, it doesn't refresh again, it doesn't blink, the entire page doesn't blink. You are having a richer experience, a richer user interface over here. So basically you're not making the user wait for the result to come in. It will keep on updating as and when your asynchronous function gives you the latest value. So this is what Ajax is about. So now so how does this work in the real world? We'll see at the another screen. So let's close this screen. So again we'll have a browser. So if you notice, when we had written our REST services, so if you notice, when we had written our REST services, we had something known as HTTP something something, and we were linking to localhost port number, inside this function. We had our code over here, and somewhere there was a handler function also. If you study the code, you'll understand how the handler function is implemented, and now what handler function is, right? It is the return value of your asynchronous function. So this function itself is asynchronous, first of all, and inside this function you were calling REST service. That is what you were doing, and this was connecting to some server, which was, in your case, it was like something like 80, 81 or something. So what was the advantage? The advantage was, whatever you see on the screen, let's say this is your screen, and you were doing some so your page is showing something, is displaying, page is displaying some screen. And here let's say you're getting the return result from you're getting the customer data, let's say display customer data over here. And then let's say display account data over here. So when you are asking for the display, initially this part of the screen will be looking empty over here, because this fellow is calling an asynchronous function. It will not wait, this page will load, so page will just simply load without waiting for the function, without waiting for asynchronous functions. But what happens when you say display customer data, you called HTTP, $HTTP, which is an asynchronous function. Internally it is calling REST service. This fellow over here, he goes and connects to your backend server. So this fellow will go to the backend and get the data back, and when he gets back, all the data will be here in the handler function, and from here it will be displayed over here. All these steps, your page will never wait for the data to come. Whenever it comes, it will be simply be displayed over here. So you are having a very rich page experience. Every time your page is not refreshing, whatever is happening in the back end is not bothering with whatever is happening in the front end. The data will come up whenever it is returned back. So you see now suddenly JavaScript is able to do two things. One, it is able to carry backend operations asynchronously, and that is where it is been used mostly. Backend operations are mostly, preferably you should write it asynchronously, and the front end is running synchronously. Over here. So this is your front end and that's your back end. Okay, so you're able to do two things at the same time. You're able to see what is happening on the screen, but at the same time, if there is any backend operations, you can use the Ajax functions, which is supported by all rich JavaScript frameworks, where we have already mentioned like examples like Angular, jQuery, whatever the front-end frameworks are. This without this asynchronous support, this page it won't make sense. What are we doing new? So asynchronous part has to be there in order to do multiple things. So this is the advantage of using this Web 2.0 technologies. Now what happened is, so what is the biggest advantage? So now if you have account data, you can connect to you can call another JavaScript function. If you have 100 things happening on your page, you can call each of these 100 things using asynchronous function, but your page will load without waiting for it, and whenever the data comes, it will show up here automatically without refreshing the entire page. Only this part of the screen, your text box or your display section, will be updated. It will be just be a light blink and you will not notice it. So hundreds of things can be operated in the back end while your front end is running. So this is what happens in Ajax. Now one of the thing is question is Ajax multi-threaded or single threaded? So this section is basically, it's talking about we're talking about computing, right? We are going to come up with concurrent computing, task computing, data intensive computing. So we have something known as parallel computing. So this is where this unit is all about. It is introducing you to some of the technologies which is also computing related. Mostly it is talking about computing in your unit 3. So the question is Ajax multi-threaded or single-threaded? So can anyone answer? Means any idea? Oh, it's a framework. Okay, some notes you have written. Oh yeah. So the question was: is Ajax multi-threaded or single-threaded? That's the question. Any answer? Okay. So the answer is so now I don't know whether you'll have at least can you tell me whether you'll understand what threading means? Like, have you all studied threading anytime? Multi-threading, okay. Okay. Anyways, but we'll talk about threading because threading is multi-threading is what concurrent computing is about, and we're going to talk about multi-threading there a little bit. But looking at this operation, like something is happening in the backend, some functions are calling in the backend as well as pages. Okay. So so in Ajax we see that two things are happening at the same time. Something is happening in the back end and something is happening in the front end. So uh, if somebody is telling us that two things are happening at the same time, will immediately say this is multi-threading. That's why it is possible. But the answer is no. It is single-threaded. So the question is, what is single threaded and how it runs on the single thread? How can you do two things using on the same thread? That becomes a question. So for that you need to understand how this works. So let me save this. And let me create a new one. So far what we have seen that so we have a web server, let's say over here, which is your backend, and this is where your REST service is running, and then we have a browser over here. Internet inside the browser, we have a program which calls a REST service, which is done by the your async function, right? And within your browser you're also displaying the page at the same time. This is displaying page. So the way it works is you can Ajax in your browser basically will what it does, it will start a thread. So when you say start a thread, you can think of starting a separate process. So now when we say separate process, what it's so this is I'm just Not getting the menu. Why? Sorry. Okay. I don't know why I'm not getting the menu. So basically, whenever you click on your task manager and you see processes, right? You can every process runs on a thread. Okay, everything has to everything that you run on a computer, it has to be connected to some thread. So a process is connected to the thread. Application is connected to the process. So you at a very basic level, what is running is your threads. That is how your all your applications are running. On your computer. So your computer may have a Word application running, Excel application running. Each application is going to start a separate thread. Because it is going to be running as a process. A process always runs in a memory, right? So it runs in the memory, and that in that memory it has your program has to be connected to a particular thread. When you say A is equal to B plus C, this thread is basically going to lock some part of your memory to run your application, and it is going to store A, B and C, but only this thread will know what is the value of A, B and C. Some other application, some other process, some other thread will never know what is the value of A, B and C, and that is why if you type something in Excel application, your Word application will not know. The processes are not they are separated, they kept separately, and operating system manages all your application using your multitasking, your threading, all these techniques. Okay, so whenever your browser, your page is loaded, right? So that is what so let me remove some part of this, or maybe just take this in the side. Whenever your browser is loading a page, it is also starting a thread. Every page is equal to one thread, means it is a separate process. So on this page, if I have two things happening at the same time, it is still happening on the same thread. If there are two pages, the browser may be multi-threaded. Now remember this, the browser may be multi-threaded. Means it can manage multiple processes at the same time, multiple pages at the same time, and but the page is single threaded. In this single threaded page, you have asynchronous functions plus you have synchronous page. So what is why it is so? These are basically two different you can say two different computations, right? Asynchronous is a separate computation and synchronous is a separate computation. So asynchronous works over your network, and your page works on the browser page, on the browser display page on the browser. So the two communications are happening at two different places. So your network till then it is idle. If idle, you can use the network. So this is what asynchronous function they take an advantage of. While your page is loading, means while you're doing something on the page, let's say you're typing your username password. Now when you're typing your username password, this network is free. So what the browser does, this thread will have a event, uh, you can say event queue or something, event queue. You will have one event is called asynchronous. So I hope this is not too so one event will be, let's say, event 1 is equal to call asynchronous function on the backend over the network. Maybe this is one event that has to be done. It is there in the queue, which is managed all by the browser within that thread. And event 2 is accept username plus password on the front end. Let me see if I can color this. Yeah, somebody has come in. Okay, so there are two events now. Okay, so there are two events now. Since I said this is one thread, these events are still synchronous, okay, but this event will simply go over the network if it is idle. Because it is idle, it is we are not connecting to the REST service. It is free. So when this is free, I can this event 1 is free to use the network, because asynchronous function is nothing but working on the network, right? It has got nothing to do with the front end. So you are not disturbing, it's like your two hands. If one hand is carrying an apple, your other hand is free, your other hand can carry an orange. So even though you are one human being, it does not mean you cannot do two different things. Till then you have two hands, and also whichever hand is free, you can use that hand to do any task. Then that is how, even if it is a one thread, you can do two different tasks. But the thing is, you cannot call two network, you cannot use like us in let's say now for example you had a third, event 3, which is calling second asynchronous function. Now what is going to happen is, now there is going to be now you have to fight for, not fight for your resources, but you are basically you are going to be, you have to wait for your turn to come in. Asynchronous function, you call in, no problem. Once you call in asynchronous function, it will be added as an event in the event queue. The event listener will accept it. It is there in the queue. But when it is executed, it is depending on the browser, it is depending on the server. If the network line is free, your event will go through and it will call. But if some other event is waiting for the, is occupied the network line, then the other events which is using the network, or wants to use the network, will have to wait. Okay, so this is how and this is how asynchronous and asynchronous both work together, and it is single threaded. So this is what all Ajax technology is about. It is used to create rich internet applications, RIA. So with this we will wrap up the Ajax part. Okay, so now that we have understood SOAP, now that we have understood REST, now that we have understood Ajax, now let's understand what is mashup. So mashup is a mix of Ajax plus presentation. So it is still a JavaScript code. So this is like saying it is a equivalent of something happening on the back end plus something happening on the front end. So mashup is basically not only it uses your backend services, and but it will also display it for you in a suitable manner. So this is where your best example as we read it is your Google Map, right? In Google Map, how do we add a map to the page? We simply might say something like map, and we might have a some Google API link, and it will say display over here. We might have just one line of code in your web page, but this web page, this line of code displays the entire map for you, right? So it will so you see some map. Now the question is, who is doing this display part? This display part is still done by the mashup code. Somewhere you have included in your page that Google .js file. This is nothing but your JavaScript code which is containing your mashup, which is going to connect to your backend. It is going to use all asynchronous techniques of Ajax techniques. It is going to call asynchronous over the network. Not only do that, but also once the data comes in, it will display the map or do whatever you want to do in the front end. Now this front end can be your news items, can be anything. You can have 3 mashups running on the same page. Okay, so this map is connected, let's say, to server 1, and let's say this one is connected to server 2 and this one is connected to server 3 on the back end. Now one thing you have to remember, I spoke that now these are 3 different events, right? Server 1, server 2, server 3, but they are not on the same network server. Okay, so they will not wait, they will not be blocked. The calls network server 1, this is connecting to network server 1, this is connecting to network server 2, and this is connecting to over the network 3. So there are 3 different network connections happening through 3 network connections happen connected to 3 different servers on the same page, which means your events will, these 3 events will not wait, doesn't has to wait. It will wait only if on the same network you're calling 2 asynchronous function one after the other. So if you're using on the same network, but if you're calling a different, because that is the how web server works. The web server will reject more than 2 network connections from the same client. So maximum what you could do, you can make 2 network connections to call 2 asynchronous functions at the same time, but not beyond this. This limit has been set by the web server itself, because if let's say your page alone calls makes 1000 connections to the server, thus, and if server is everybody is using this website all over the world, the others won't get a chance to use the web server, right? It will get blocked. So that's why web server maintains usually 1 or 2 connection per client or per user or per browser. So you have to remember this, and that since the server is blocking the network connections, your the network is said to be busy, and it will not allow you to connect. But this server might be busy, but this server is still free. This server too may be free. So this line is still free. So this second mashup presentation item on your screen will not be slow, and will continue loading faster. All these three mashups doesn't have to wait up on each other, because they're all connecting to three different servers. So what is the benefit of this? If all the three mashups are running at the same time, then your page does not has to wait. The page does not has to refresh. The page will only that part of the screen will be refreshed which is affected by the asynchronous function, or that particular mashup. So mashup not only does Ajax calls, but it also does presentations. So mashup is equal to Ajax and presentation. Okay, so whenever somebody is talking about Web 2.0 technologies, you're talking about SOAP. You need to write about SOAP, REST, Ajax, and mashup. So that is what this technology is about. So Web 2.0 technologies. So the last line says what it says: Web 2.0 help developers to create rich internet applications. So with this, we most of the times I'm not able to see the screen also. Here it is. What I was searching for. Yeah, I was looking for the time. Yeah, it's 4:25, and I didn't expect so much time to pass by, but when we are talking about this, explaining this, it does take time. So I hope this was helpful. This session on Web 2.0 technologies. We might want to. So then I just want to see quickly the question paper. If do we have any? So if you want to look at the question paper, go to that link bit.ly/uom_docs. Then in cloud computing, let's see if it's here. It is. Yeah, in the root folder, there is question papers, and here SAM3 question paper. This is a different question paper. So this is your same three paper. So this first four questions comes from unit 1. This question, sorry. So here one of the questions says describe web services. Oh, what is this? Operating the computer without a mouse. What happened? Let me download, maybe. Download will work. Okay. Okay. So now I have downloaded. Hopefully it will not disappear. Okay. I hope you can see the screen or read the words properly. Yeah, this is about cloud computing, right? So it says the question is describe web services and mashup architectures for integration over the internet, right? So what does integration means? Integration means you are integrating different applications. You're integrating customer service, you're integrating account service, you're integrating your transaction service. You're all integrating. They're loosely coupled, they're interoperable. That is not It is not single application. It may be written in any language. So all this integration is possible, and the web services is what makes it possible. In web services we have SOAP and REST, and we can also talk about Ajax and mashup. So this entire question, you can talk about web 2.0, because it mentions about mashup, it mentions about integration, web services. So that is where your 6 marks is for. So you can draw 1-2 diagrams to explain. And then here you have another question: when to use SOAP and WSDL web service and REST web service in cloud-based application. So we already mentioned, right? If you have a very complex application which is suiting for the industry, SOAP might be a good way of direction to go. But if you have a simple website where you have the need only for HTTP, where you can simply use the URI links and manage your entire application, then go for REST web services. Can we look at some other paper? Is there any other question paper? Here I can see something. Part 1, December 2019. 2019, last year. So this was your last year's paper. So again the same question has come in: describe web service and mashup architectures for integration over the internet. So, and this first question is discuss various types of cloud. So so when you say types, so we have public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud. So these are the cloud types. And if it is cloud technology, then we'll have web 2.0, virtualization, service oriented computing. If you have cloud services, it is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. And if you have cloud platform, So remember the word cloud platform. If I would explain platform, the different cloud platforms, then we're talking about cloud providers, which is AWS and Azure and Google. These are the top three. So here again it is saying when to use SOAP web service and REST web service. Is it the same question paper? Because questions are same almost. And what is this? Second, another question paper. Let's see this. This is section 2. What is this? So this is part 1. So what is this part 1? What is this? So they're kind of repeating the questions, okay? See here it says describe SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, but it is same like asking what are the different cloud services, then web services and mashup architectures. Then how Ajax applications work, why they are called rich internet application. We already went through this, right? When to use SOAP, WSDL web service or REST web service in cloud-based applications. We have already done this. So next we'll be moving to multi-tenancy. We'll be wrapping it up quickly. We have already done spoken about it, but it says explain virtualization as a mechanism, to achieve multi-tenancy. So it is the next presentation blog. We'll look at. We'll look at that in our next lecture. What I'm going to do now is just going to update your attendance. Like some of you came very late, I think Shubham came almost in the end. Okay, Aditya, Azur. I don't know whose Alien 8 is, so I don't know what to mark attendance. Alpesha, Chinmay, Croydon, Durgesh, Harsh, Kunal, Nikhil, Palak, Pooja, Roshali, Tuba, Ali is written, Shubham, then Suraj, Tariq, Urvashi, okay. I think Vijaya, okay, Vijaya is written, I guess. No. Okay. So I marked you all for your attendance. Is there any other question? Is my recording?